The most valuable Legion piece is finally mine. I set out on this 250 to get 1% Meso, and boy howdy, I got my 1% Meso. This time, Phantom. Phantom is very, very interesting, but I'll get into that. For the gear, it is pretty much the same gear as my dual blade and a few pieces from the Xenon. However, I do have two new additions. A new superior drop ring, since I have moved my 2-line ring over to my 0 permanently to use that as my farmer, and a new superior earring, since I also moved the earrings over to my 0. They don't have really relevant stat potentials, but that doesn't matter. I was just looking for 17 star on them and a line of drop rates so that they could fill the holes that were missing. For the rest of the gear, it's pretty much the same as my dual blade. Nothing too outrageous. A pretty decent cane. I'm surprised the B-Pot got to legendary considering I was really only throwing free cubes at it, but all in all, pretty darn good. I didn't struggle at pretty much any point to one-shot. Well, I struggled somewhere. Our super nice spectrum goggles that are coming in handy with all of my luck classes. Those things are a real lifesaver actually. They give quite a bit of range boost for being completely free to trade. A 15% attack emblem. Got pretty lucky on the B-Pot and rolled it. I was expecting to just have 9 all stat 9 attack. A Sengoku Hakase badge. What? How does he have this? Truth be told, this was my first character in Barra, so that's why this has the badge. But I don't think I'll ever get any use out of it, because I don't know if I'll ever main Phantom. It just doesn't feel like the class for me. It feels really fun, and it has a very interesting playstyle, but it doesn't check all the boxes that I need. And then a placeholder heart just for the Star Force. Nothing too good. As for the V Matrix, always, 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 I'll say in pretty much every one of these videos, first V skill you want, decent holy symbol. You want that maxed out as soon as you can get it. It's EXP, it's drop rate, it's a no-brainer. Our first boost node, Impeccable Memory 2, 3, and 4, and our second boost node, Impeccable Memory 4, Carte Blanche, and Impeccable Memory 3. The reason you want these is because your main mobbing skills are the skills you steal. So you want to have 3 and 4 boosted primarily, because those are the slots your mobbing skills are going to fall into, whether you're using Arrow Platter, Frozen Orb, Showdown, Cannon, Bazooka, what have you. They'll usually fit into those 2 slots. The other ones, they're pretty handy to have, just in case you want to throw something else into it. Luck of the draw. By God, this skill dumps out damage lines so fast. Oh, it sounds beautiful. It sounds great. Just seeing all those cards explode out of you and seeing the damage lines just ripple through the screen. Honestly, probably my favorite part of Phantom. This skill is absolutely amazing. Ace in the Hole, a very, very handy skill and also a very flawed skill. It has decent damage, but it only hits mobs once before it finds a different target. So if it doesn't one-shot the mob, it's not entirely useful. But while you are one-shotting the mob, it's really darn good. It's like a faster, more crazy guided arrow. More crazy in the fact that it will literally fling itself across the entire map to hit a mob. I don't know how it chooses targets, but it's amazingly hilarious seeing it move at the speed of light to the next target. Last resort, pretty much just for bursting elites. You can honestly put this on later. I just have it up here since this is one of my boosted node slots, and it helped me burst through elite bosses quicker. Your next boost node, Tempest, Rose Cart Finale, and Impeccable Memory 1. My trios are a little messed up here because I wasn't getting very good luck pulling perfect tries, but all of the necessary skills are covered in these trios. Then the next boost node, Mille Aiguilles. I think I said that right. French is really weird. So for the rest of the video, I'll just refer to it as Millie. That's what I've always called it. Penumbra and Impeccable Memory 2. Then Impeccable Memory 1 again, that'll be our second one. Tempest for the second time, and Rose Cart Finale for the second time. And then our second Carte Blanche, Mille Aiguilles, and Penumbra. Then Rope Lift, just because it's super duper handy for mobility, and Phantom's Flash Jump is honestly kinda booty, so you need help with the mobility. Decent Speed Infusion, because when you're using Cannon Bazooka, you need attack speed. This slot here was just for an EXP boost node, and then True Arachnid Reflection, which you get from doing the Will storyline. Now, Phantom is pretty darn unique in that you can steal skills from all classes, but there are really only a few core skills that you're going to end up stealing. For first job, the main skill you're going to want is Dark Sight. Honestly, it's such a valuable skill to have that I don't think either one of these other two options are better than it. It's so darn good. It's tons of utility. Your second one is going to pretty much always be Rage. It's just more attack power and less damage taken. It's very good for a second job skill. Then your third slot is going to be Cross Surge primarily, because this gives you a huge boost in damage as long as your HP is maxed, so you want to have this on most of the time. Sometimes you want Arrow Platter on, maybe you have a different rotation for farming than I do where you'll use Arrow Platter and a fourth job mobbing skill, but predominantly this third job slot is always Cross Surge for me. Then for fourth job, it's just mobbing skills. The most useful ones that I found were Frozen Orb and Cannon Bazooka, but again, you can steal pretty much any Explorer fourth job skill that you feel comfortable grinding with and go with those. Now for where these are placed, it depends on how much damage they're boosted. See, Arrow Platter, or Arrow Blaster, weird, I thought it was Arrow Platter, gets boosted more final damage if it's on the third slot. However, Cross Surge gives such a big boost to final damage, it's better to have it on the fourth slot. And then for your hypers, it's really only Bullseye Shot. It's pretty much nothing better. The Fire Poison skill used to be a good one, but they made it last 30 seconds on a toggle ability. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that. So it's pretty much just Bullseye Shot. It's a really, really solid hyper buff to steal. For 200 to 210, since this is my first character in Barra, I did this a long time ago. This was even well before I got my Frenzy Totem, but I did it in Blazing Urdas. I believe at the time I was using Kishin spawn, so it was still pretty handy. Oh, let's see if we can find a channel where we're not KSing some guy. Here we go. The rotation is pretty simple. I would just set Lucid at the bottom and drop your Rose Card Finale, chuck out a card on cooldown, and then just drop through the map. Oh, I'm using the wrong skill. 1 second. Also, little aside, swapping skills kinda sucks because it puts it on a 30-second cooldown. So you're kinda just sitting here waiting for it to be on cooldown. And in the most recent patch, they said they fixed this bug where it doesn't show that the skill's on cooldown, but hey, guess what? The skill still doesn't show it's on cooldown. So it's kind of annoying, but it's not that bad. It's only 30 seconds. We can just ramble while we wait. We're gonna have to wait again because I gotta switch it back to Arrow Platter. But the rotation is pretty much just down jumping through the map with your Cannon Bazooka. And while it's not entirely efficient, you're not full clearing the map, the amount of mobs you hit with Cannon Bazooka, because the range on it is just so ridiculously long, the XP is honestly pretty decent, and you'll get through these levels super fast, because nowadays 200 to 210, it's a cakewalk. So let's swap this back now, because we gotta wait for the cooldown. Oh hey, there's the cooldown. It showed up. Poggers. Maybe they half fixed it. Maybe I did something that bugged it. Who knows? For 210 to 220, Chu Chu Island. The map that I used was Slurpy Forest Steps. Honestly, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But a fun thing with Slurpy Forest Steps, this Phantom, for me, 210 to 225, this might honestly have been the fastest 250 I did. And the rotation I used was pretty handy. I would set Lucid down here on the bottom because primarily I don't want to be down here. So I'd drop Lucid and Cart Finale, and then ideally you'd Rope Lift up, get over to the side, place your Platter, and then you would stand here and hold down Platter. Now ideally you'd want to be holding down on the top, but it's okay that you're not up there because the Carte Blanche cards will occasionally fly off of you up to the top and they will hit the mobs. Let's see if I can demonstrate. they'll occasionally fly up and hit the mobs up there, and if your Carte Blanche is one-shotting, you're getting a few extra mob kills, but honestly, you're effectively full clearing the rest of the map on spawn. This is really insane EXP for how little effort it is. I'm just holding down one key and then watching my Lucid Soul cooldown. When that's off, just walk down here, place it again, drop Rose Cart Finale, jump back up to the top, set a turret, drop down, hold the turret, and you're getting insane EXP. It's utterly nuts how good the EXP is for just holding down a key effectively. And then for 200 to 225, or honestly I would say until like 230, 235 honestly, because while Phantom is not a slouch in terms of bossing damage, its damage per line is honestly pretty low. Meaning you're gonna struggle to one-shot mobs even if you're really, really strong. That's made all the more evident with your Ace in the Hole, because if it stops one-shotting, your EXP rates suffer pretty dramatically, because every throw of Ace in the Hole is 20 mob kills. But the training method for here, I was lucky enough that I was still one-shotting, is absolutely absurd EXP. Same concept as Slurpy Forest Depths. Lucid and Carte Finale goes over there, and then you stand over here and you just throw out Ice Orb, and Ice Orb will travel this entire platform, kill everything, and then your Carte Blanche cards will just spew out of you to anything unlucky enough to be targeted by them. And you just stand here and you just throw it on cooldown. And you can throw your Ace in the Hole as well, get some additional mobbing in there, and you really only have to move once your Lucid Soul's off cooldown. Then you just jump back over to the corner, place Lucid Soul. You could also just throw an Ice Orb behind you when you go over to do this. Jump over, place Lucid Soul, cast Carte Finale, and then jump back to your position. Looting the map isn't that fluid. You kind of have to stop farming to do it, but it's pretty dang good EXP even with that drawback. But honestly, if you're one-shotting here, I would stay there until 230 or even 234 at the most, because oh boy, CLP. It's a problem. If your Carte Blanches and your Ace in the Hole isn't one-shotting in Arcana, don't even bother. Just stay in Lachlan, because it makes a huge difference if you're one-shotting. But CLP and Lower Path 2 are the two maps that I did. But since the game is just so absolutely packed with people, I decided primarily to just straight up avoid CLP, because dealing with the hassle that comes with training in the map, the amount of people that come through here, the fact that you can't ever go to an MVP unless you have a map sitter, the people who just want to KS because they're lazy and they don't want to find a different map, it's just not worth the hassle, even though the EXP is pretty darn good in here, especially for how little effort it is. But the rotation is pretty much just Lucid and Carte Blanche on top, and then Ice Orb in the middle. Ice Orb's hitbox is big enough to hit the bottom, which is absolutely insane. And the EXP is really, really good if you're one-shotting. If you're not one-shotting, Ice Orb and your Rose Carte Finale will pretty much be the big two that'll be killing the map if your Ace in the Hole and your Carte Blanche procs aren't one-shotting, and they're not good enough to make the EXP better than Lachlan alone. You really need to have every part one-shotting to get the most out of this training method. But it's really, really simple, and it's really, really fast if you can, you know, deal with the problems that come with being in CLP. But I have been in CLP more than my fair share of time. And I'm really tired of dealing with people not being able to go to MVPs when I want, etc, etc. So I trained in Lower Path 2. Now this is worse EXP overall. It's not as fantastic, but it is significantly easier. It is very, very easy. Alright, Arcana Bazooka is working finally. But it's really just drop your summons, Rose Carte Finale, and your will skill if you have it in the middle, and then you just down jump and shoot inward. And Cannon Bazooka has such a good range to it, you're going to be hitting most every mob that's out of the summons range. And this is the rotation. It's pretty much the same one I showed off in the marksman video, but it's strictly better. It gets pretty darn good EXP rates, while also being very, very, like, low APM. You don't really have to do much. All you have to do is watch your Lucid Soul cooldown, watch your Rose Carte Finale cooldown, and just chuck them on cooldown. Throw a card out whenever it's up. And it's pretty easy. This is where I trained to 250, because, again, mobbing kinda suffers for Phantom. That's really the biggest problem this class has. It has low base damage on its mobbing skills. And even though you can steal lots and lots of buffs, they don't really make up for the difference. But all in all, I got to 250 there rather quick. It wasn't that slow. I was still getting about 10 to 11% per hour in that map with no lag in Barra, so it's not a slow 250 by any means. It's not like dual blade level suffering, but it's not super duper fast either. I think I was getting 13 to 14% an hour in CLP if I'm remembering right. I only did like 1 or 2 levels there before I said screw it and left because it wasn't worth the hassle for me. But as for Esfera, there are training rotations in Esfera. I'll link to Rob's channel in the description. He's a much better Phantom player than I am. I'm just a casual who trained it to 250. He has some fantastic videos if you want to know more about Phantom and some pretty high tier training areas, but Rob is way stronger than I am. I can't even attempt his training methods because, oh boy, we are just miles apart in terms of damage. But that's the mobbing for Phantom. It wasn't bad. Like, as I was saying, 210 to 225, I feel like it was one of my fastest 250s because just how little effort it took. It probably took the same amount of time as like a Battle Mage or a Luminous, because those two were super duper fast also, but just the little amount of effort that it took to get to 225 made it seem like it was super duper fast. As for the bossing on Phantom, a lot of people were saying they'd like to see the bossing on these 250s, so I recorded my last dojo run here after I hit 250, and I'll upload that a little bit later so that you can watch that. Again, I'm in no way a Phantom main. I don't know all the like micro interactions between the skills. I'm kind of just using things on cooldown, but you can see how far I get into dojo with my funding and my node setup, so you can get a proper feel for how strong the class is. And honestly, this is pretty much the same funding most of my 250s have, and it got to the same point and in the end a little bit farther than other classes because this class excels at bossing. Like, it is consistent DPS out the wazoo. But I guess in our bind burst meta that can be kind of a problem because consistent DPS kind of falls behind when bind burst is the bossing meta. And it does have significant bursts, like it's got Last Resort and Luck of the Draw. So it does pump out good bind burst damage, but it's probably not the best. The cooldowns on this are really good though. Like, Phantom's Mark feels great. It's a big burst, it's an iframe, and a dash that'll put you behind a boss, so that's super duper handy. And the fact that you can steal, what the heck is it called? The dual blade skill. Final Cut. The fact that you can steal Final Cut is super duper handy because Final Cut is an iframe that's on a 90-second cooldown and it's a massive final damage buff. So with Final Cut, with Last Resort, and with all your other buffs, you do have quite a significant amount of final damage for your burst. Survivability is pretty easy now. You've got Phantom's Mark, you've got Final Cut, you've got iframes. So you don't have really a problem there. As well, you can sometimes pull a lifesteal card to top yourself off, so there's no real problem there. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I had any problems doing any of my weekly bosses. Most of them, almost all of them, were just one binds, where I'd just bind the boss and absolutely melt it. So I don't really have tons of experience with bossing that takes extended amounts of time besides dojo, and dojo isn't really a perfect example for bossing since there's not really that much risk of dying, don't have to run from too much. Well, at least not at the floors I can get to. Because I'm not an endgame bosser by any means. The class as a whole, it feels like it has problems. Like, the Phantom doesn't have its own mobbing skill at all. Like, melee isn't a mobbing skill. It hits multiple mobs, sure, but it's not good. Penumbra is technically a mobbing skill, but it's so slow that it's never really worth using. And it's like, you've got combos with Rapier Wit and Melee Cartes, but they're not good enough. Blossom isn't a good skill by any means. I actually hate this skill because of how small the hitbox is. But they make up for it by being able to steal other people's skills. But then it doesn't really feel like I'm playing a Phantom. Like, 210 to 225 I felt like I was a Phantom because I was swapping between Ice Orb and Arrow Platter, and I was using different classes' skills for different maps and situations. But after I got into Arcana, it was just Cannon Bazooka all the time. That's because I wasn't going to bother with CLP because it's just too much of a hassle with this many people playing right now. But really, I was playing a Cannon Master with throwing cards. I didn't feel like I was playing a Phantom, because really it's just Carte Rose Finale and Cannon Bazooka. Like, Lucid Soul and True Arachnid Reflection are something that every single class in the game can have. But Phantom only has Rose Carte Finale and Ace in the Hole in their main mobbing rotation for Arcana. I don't know how to put it into words, but I don't feel like I played Phantom. It's weird. Like, obviously I played Phantom, I got my 1% Meso card, so I did do it, but I felt like I was just a glorified Cannon Master. I mean, bossing I definitely felt like a Phantom. I got that Tempest spam, the melee lines, chucking cards left and right, throwing down summons, bursting when I can. If bossing, you feel like a Phantom, but mobbing, I just feel like a glorified Cannon Master. I don't know. I mean, I hope Cannon Master's a little more different than just Cannon Bazooka all day, every day. I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is, because they have their big bullet bills they can throw out. So hopefully that feels a little bit different. I don't have to use the same training rotation on Cannon Master. And if I did, it's not that bad, because it's a really easy training rotation, but I'd like a little bit more diversity. For Phantom overall, I would not recommend this to new players at all. Like, the class is a fantastic bosser. It's got an amazing theme and concept to it, but it is very, 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 very funding dependent. Like, you will definitely feel a massive difference between a low damage Phantom and a high damage Phantom. Just the amount of mobbing capabilities that Phantom has when you can one-shot with Arrow Platter, with your Carte Blancs, with your Lucid Soul, Phantom's mobbing explodes. Like, some of the maps and rotations that Rob showed off in his video looked incredible. They looked freaking awesome. Like, they'd get some really good EXP rates, but the fact of the matter is you need to be Rob tier damage to do those. Oh man, and your average Mapler really isn't gonna be that strong. Like, I'm even above average tier Mapler. Like, 26k stat is pretty darn high to the average person. Like, 20k is pretty achievable by most people. You can do that free to play any day of the week. It just takes a little bit of time, but like 26 to 30k, that's a bit more of an investment of time and a lot of planning ahead of time. So Phantom really isn't something I'd recommend to newer players. However, if you like the class, obviously play it, of course. Play what you enjoy, don't play something based on how strong it is. That's how you burn out of the game and stop playing. You gotta find something that you enjoy playing more so than something that does the most damage. And there are a lot of dedicated Phantom mains out there, like a lot of them. I feel like Nexon is hesitant to buff this class because of how strong Phantom is at the end game. Like, Phantom's best friend in this game is the damage cap, because of all the thieves, Phantom dumps out the most damaged lines consistently, making it one of the strongest thieves when you're capping. The problem is, capping isn't something normal people do. But so far in KMS, every new endgame boss that has been released, one of the first clears has involved a Phantom. Almost like clockwork, every single new boss, hey, the first clear, guess what, there's a Phantom in there. Because the class is super duper strong when you're funded, but at the cost of just being really, really weak for normal players. I don't know how they'd find a happy middle ground for that, because the class has a really cool theme and it would appeal to a lot of people, but then they play the class and they're like, ooh boy, I don't do shit for damage. And then they get it to like, well, 200, 210 for the Link skill, and they drop the class and just never look back because, oh look, that's that really, really weak class, why would I want to play that? So I feel like Phantom needs some buffs, especially to its early game. Like, it needs to feel good to play, especially for new players. Like, its skills are beautiful. It looks great. It's a class that people would see and they'd be like, I want to main that. That looks cool. But then they'd play it and you don't do damage. And all that goes out the window. So I don't know. Like, if they buff it in the future, my mind will probably change. I like the class as it is, but it definitely needs some buffs. It's in a rough spot for early game, and I don't know why, because as good as the end game is for Phantom, it's not that overpowered that the early game can't be a little bit better, right? It can't be. Like, it's not even top of the DPS charts, ever. But that's just me complaining. Oh, this one has been Phantom. After this, I'm going back to the slave labor that is Mesa farming because your boy's broke. I bought too many perm royals from the auction house. I have no self-control for the cute things in this game. It's rough. But there's a spell trace fever time coming up pretty soon. I'm gonna Mesa farm up until then, and depending on how that goes, I'll decide what class I'm doing next. I have an idea in mind, but it really heavily depends on how my luck goes with spell tracing. And since one of the items I need to spell trace is a weapon, oh boy, I'm gonna need all the luck I can get, so I'm crossing my fingers and toes. But I hope I'll see you in that next video. Thanks for watching. As always with these, if you have any questions about my 10k Legion grind, about playing Phantom, about playing MapleStory in general, please ask down below. I make it a point in all of these to answer any and all questions you guys have, because I have played this game for 16 years. I know a few bits and pieces of knowledge, so I might be able to help you out. Or if I can, I'll point you in the right direction towards someone or something that does have the answer. And I hope I see you in the next one.